It was 3 a.m. The house was still, the only sounds were the soft ticking of the clock in the hallway and the occasional rustle of wind against the windows. I was in bed, tossing and turning, unable to sleep. My mind kept replaying the same thoughts, the same images. I missed her so much. My mom. She had passed away 2 years ago after a long battle with illness. I could still hear her voice in my head sometimes, as clear as if she were still here. I would think of all the little things we used to do together, making cookies on Sundays, sitting on the porch swing while she told me stories, her warm, comforting presence. Life hadn't been the same since she was gone. That night I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling when I heard a sound. A voice, soft but urgent. "Sweetie, open the door, it's cold out here." I froze, my heart stopped. The room seemed to go cold, as if the warmth of the memories of my mom had vanished in an instant. I sat up in bed, my heart pounding in my chest. There was no way this could be happening. My mom passed away 2 years ago. I had buried her. I had gone through all the grief, the tears, the endless nights. And yet here I was, hearing her voice again, calling me. I quickly stood up and walked to the window. My knees felt weak. The curtains swayed gently in the breeze, and I pulled them aside slowly, praying, hoping this was just a dream. But when I looked out into the dark, foggy night, I saw something that made my blood run cold. There she was, my mom, standing at the front door. I blinked, my eyes didn't want to believe it. But there she was, looking as real as I remembered, wrapped in her old green sweater, her face illuminated by the dim light from the porch. I felt my breath catch in my throat, the voice, the figure. It was like something straight out of a horror story, but this was my reality. This was impossible. I quickly backed away from the window, my heart racing. I felt dizzy. Was this a trick? Was I dreaming? But then I heard her voice again, and it was even more chilling the second time. "Sweetie, open the door, it's cold out here." I didn't know what to do. My hands were shaking, my whole body was frozen in fear. Suddenly I remembered something only I knew. When I was little, I used to hide a small key under the welcome mat. My mom would always use it when she needed to get into the house when I was asleep. It was our secret. No one else knew about it. She wouldn't know about that, would she? The realization hit me like a punch in the gut. I had to see it for myself. I crept toward the door, my legs trembling, and slowly peered through the peephole. What I saw next made my heart stop. There she was, still standing there. Her face was expressionless, her eyes staring directly at me through the small hole in the door. And then, with a voice that was just a whisper, she said something that made my blood run cold. "Don't you remember, sweetie? I told you I'll always come back for you." I couldn't move, I couldn't think. My mind was screaming, but my body refused to react. My mother was standing outside in the cold at 3 a.m., and she knew things that only I should know. I couldn't comprehend it, I couldn't explain it. I slowly backed away from the door, my heart racing in my chest. I didn't know if I should run, if I should open the door, or if I should just hide. But one thing was for sure, whatever was happening wasn't normal, and I had no idea how to stop it. Suddenly, the door handle turned. It was as if my worst nightmare was coming true. The sound of the door opening slowly echoed through the silence of the house. I didn't know if I could take it anymore. I couldn't breathe. The door handle clicked, and the heavy, slow creak of the door opening filled the room. The sound echoed in my ears, sending a chill down my spine. My heart was hammering in my chest, so loud I was sure it could be heard in the next room. I backed away from the door, my legs feeling like jelly. There was no way this was real. No way my mom could be standing outside, 2 years after her death. But the door kept inching open, the hinges groaning under the weight of whatever was on the other side. I felt frozen in place, as if I were a statue, unable to move or even think straight. My hands trembled as I reached for the nearest chair, gripping it as though it might somehow anchor me in reality. But the terror in my gut told me this was no dream, no figment of my imagination. The door swung open wider. My mom's figure stood in the doorway, illuminated by the faint light from the street lamps outside. The mist from the cold night air swirled around her like a veil, and her face was blank, emotionless. She didn't seem to notice the chill, or perhaps she didn't care. "Sweetie," she said again, her voice almost a whisper, "you have to let me in, it's cold out here." My mind raced. The key, I'd hidden it, but the door was opening. Had someone else found it? Had someone broken in pretending to be her? No, this was impossible. I knew this was my mom, but the reality of the situation was slipping further and further away. My heart pounded harder with every passing second. "Mom," I whispered, my voice shaky, "you're not real, you can't be." I felt dizzy, as if the room was spinning around me. I had to force myself to focus. I needed answers, I needed to understand. I stumbled backward and fell into the chair behind me. "This doesn't make sense," I gasped, feeling the weight of the words settle heavily on my chest. My mom had been gone for 2 years, and yet here she was, standing in front of me, asking to come inside. "Sweetie," the voice was the same, but it felt so foreign now, so distant. "Don't you remember? I promised you I would always come back." I rubbed my eyes, desperately trying to wake myself from whatever twisted nightmare this was. But the figure in front of me didn't disappear. It didn't fade. It stayed, unmoving, staring directly at me with a gaze that seemed to pierce right through me. I could feel my pulse quicken, panic setting in. What should I do? Should I scream? Should I run? My mind was a blur of conflicting thoughts, and in that moment I realized I was no longer sure of what was real anymore. The door creaked open wider, and suddenly a gust of cold wind rushed inside, making me shiver. My mom didn't seem to notice it. She didn't even blink, her eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that made my stomach flip. My feet were glued to the floor, the words I wanted to say caught in my throat. You can't be here," I finally managed to croak. But then she did something that sent a chill even deeper into my bones. She stepped forward, slowly, deliberately, and I watched her feet as they moved across the threshold. She was coming in. "Let me in, sweetie." Her voice cracked like it was the last bit of her strength. "I'm so sorry for leaving you like that." I blinked, trying to process her words. She was sorry. Sorry for what? For dying, for abandoning me? How could she possibly feel sorry for that? I looked down at the floor, my mind racing, trying to make sense of it all. Why was this happening? Why now? "Mom, please, just tell me this isn't real," I whispered, my voice barely audible, trembling with fear. She paused for a moment, standing still in the doorway, her face softening just slightly. Then, as if she had all the time in the world, she reached out toward me. Her fingers were trembling as if she hadn't used them in years. I could feel my chest tightening, my heart still pounding in my ears. I wanted to run, to bolt out of the house and never look back, but my legs wouldn't move. And then she said something that stopped me cold. "I know what you've been hiding, sweetie. I know what you've been keeping from me." My eyes widened in terror. Hiding? What was she talking about? What had I been keeping from her? I couldn't even think straight. "Mom, what are you talking about?" I asked, my voice breaking. "What have I been hiding?" She took another step toward me, and I had to force myself to stay seated. I couldn't let her get any closer. She wasn't my mom anymore. She couldn't be. But she was, wasn't she? Her next words were like a slap in the face. "I know about the key, sweetie, the one you hid under the welcome mat." I gasped, my heart stopping for a moment. She knew. How could she possibly know that? My mind was reeling, and before I could process anything else, I heard a noise coming from the hallway behind me. A soft shuffle. I spun around, my heart racing, to see a shadow moving in the dim light. It was too dark to see who it was, but the shape looked familiar. And then, just as quickly as it had appeared, the shadow disappeared. I stood up, my body trembling, my heart hammering. I had to find out what was happening, but before I could take another step, my mum's voice stopped me cold. "Sweetie, there's something you do know, something you've never known." The air around me grew colder, the room darker, and my stomach twisted into knots. "Mom, what do you mean?" I whispered. And that's when she said the words that shattered everything. "It's not just me, sweetie. You've been hiding more than just the key." My mind spun wildly as her words echoed in the room. "It's not just me, sweetie. You've been hiding more than just the key." The room seemed to grow colder with every passing second. The words seemed so simple, yet they made my whole body freeze in terror. What was she talking about? What more could I have been hiding? The key, the only secret I had ever kept from my mom, or so I thought. I couldn't move. My legs felt as if they were trapped in cement, unable to take a step forward. I looked into my mom's eyes, desperately trying to read them, but there was something different about her gaze now. It wasn't warm or comforting. It was cold, distant, and piercing, like she wasn't my mom at all. A heavy silence hung in the air. I could barely hear anything besides the rush of blood in my ears. The chill in the room made me shiver, despite the fact that I wasn't cold. It was the kind of chill that settled deep inside your bones, the kind that made your skin crawl. My mind raced back to the moments I had spent hiding the key all those years ago. I had been so careful, so secretive. Why would she bring it up now of all times? Suddenly the door creaked again, the sound of it hanging in the air like a warning. I could feel the tension thickening, making it hard to breathe. "Sweetie," my mom continued, her voice barely a whisper, "you've been keeping it from me for so long, and now it's time to come clean." I swallowed hard. "I don't understand, Mom. What do you mean? What am I hiding?" She tilted her head, staring at me as if I were the most frustrating puzzle she had ever tried to solve. "It's not just the key, it's everything, sweetie, your father." My stomach twisted at the mention of my father's name. He had been gone for many years, and I had never known much about him. My mom had always said he was a good man, a loving man, but he had left before I was born, and she never spoke about him much. I had grown up without any real answers about his disappearance. "What do you know about Dad?" I asked, my voice shaky. Mom's expression softened for a brief moment, and she sighed, as though this was something she had wanted to say for a long time but had never found the right moment. "You've always wanted to know, haven't you, the truth about him, about what happened?" I nodded slowly, my pulse quickening. What was she going to say? But before she could answer, the shadow I had seen earlier reappeared in the hallway, this time more distinct. I could make out the shape of a person, standing at the edge of the dim light, their features blurred by the darkness. I froze again. This time I didn't turn around, I couldn't. My eyes stayed locked on my mom, hopping for some explanation, but she remained still, her face unreadable. "Mom," I whispered, my voice trembling with uncertainty. She didn't answer. Instead, the figure in the hallway slowly stepped into the light. I felt my breath catch in my throat. It was a man. He was tall, his face obscured by the shadows, but there was something about him that seemed so familiar. My heart skipped a beat. Who was this man? Why was he here? The man took a step closer, and I could finally see his face. It was my father. I gasped, my legs finally giving way as I stumbled back. I fell to the floor, unable to look away. The man who had vanished from my life, the man I had never known, was standing right in front of me. But how was this possible? My father was dead. He had disappeared years ago. "I knew you'd be surprised," the man said, his voice rough but familiar. "I never wanted to leave you, sweetie, but there were things I had to do, things you wouldn't understand." I scrambled to my feet, backing away as the room spun around me. "You're dead," I said, my voice barely audible. "You can't be here, you." But my father's eyes were intense, almost sad. "I'm not dead, sweetie, I just had to disappear." "Why?" I managed to whisper, still trying to understand what was happening. He sighed, stepping closer. "There are secrets you do know, things about your mom, about me, and about you." My head was spinning now, my mind overwhelmed by the impossible situation I found myself in. My mom had been hiding something, my father wasn't dead, and there were secrets about me. "I don't understand. What secrets?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. My mom took a slow step toward me, her expression unreadable as she gazed at my father. Then, with a voice that sent a chill through me, she spoke. "You're not just any girl, sweetie. You were chosen for a purpose we've been protecting you from all these years." I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. "What do you mean, chosen for what?" But before she could respond, my father took another step forward, his eyes now full of regret. "There's no easy way to say this, but you've been part of something much bigger than you realize. You're not like other people. You have a power, a gift that's been hidden from you for years." I shook my head, unable to process what they were saying. No, this can't be true, you're lying." My father's gaze softened and he reached out, his hand trembling as if he was afraid to touch me. "It's the truth, sweetie, and you'll have to learn to accept it whether you're ready or not." I stepped back, fear gripping me tightly. I felt like I was losing control of everything I thought I knew about my life. My parents, who I thought I understood, were hiding truths about me, truths that felt so far out of reach. I didn't know if I could ever understand them. I couldn't breathe, I couldn't think. And then, as if to confirm the nightmare was far from over, the door slammed shut behind me, locking us in. "Now it's time for you to understand," my mom said, her voice low. Everything you thought you knew is about to change." I turned around, my heart racing, to see my father standing just behind me. But this time he wasn't alone. There were others with him, and they were coming for me. The room felt like it was closing in on me. My heart raced wildly in my chest, and my breath came in short gasps. The air was thick with tension, a weight pressing down on my shoulders that I couldn't shake. I turned quickly, my eyes darting between my father and the others who had stepped into the room with him. There were 3 of them now, strangers, their faces masked with calm yet unsettling expressions. They stood close to my father, their presence like shadows in the corners of my vision. "Who are they?" I asked, my voice barely audible, the fear in my chest making it hard to speak. My father didn't answer right away. He simply looked at me, his eyes filled with a deep sadness. It was as if he was sorry for what was coming, but he couldn't stop it. "They're people who are part of the same world we belong to," he said quietly, glancing at the 3 strangers. "They've been watching over you, ensuring your safety." I backed away instinctively, pressing myself against the wall, my pulse still thundering in my ears. "Safety? From what?" I demanded. "From what are you hiding me? What is this world you're talking about?" One of the strangers, a tall man with short black hair and dark eyes, stepped forward. He didn't say a word at first, just studied me with a cool, calculating look. I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck stand up under his gaze. "We've been keeping you safe," he finally said, his voice low and firm, "but the time has come for you to learn the truth." The words hung in the air like a cold, heavy fog. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but I couldn't find my voice. I was drowning in confusion, in fear. My mom, who had been eerily silent until now, slowly walked toward me, her face a mask of concern. "Sweetie, I know this is a lot to take in, but you need to understand. We've kept the truth from you for so long because we thought you weren't ready." I shook my head, my mind still spinning. "Ready for what? What truth? What are you talking about?" My father stepped forward then, placing a hand gently on my shoulder. The touch was comforting, but it only added to my confusion. "The truth is," he began slowly, "you're not just any girl, you have a power, a gift, and it's time for you to learn about it." I pulled away from him, my head spinning. "A power? What are you saying? What kind of power?" The man who had spoken earlier took a step forward again, his eyes never leaving mine. "You have the ability to see things, to feel things that others can't. You're connected to something ancient, something that has been hidden from the world for centuries." I blinked, trying to process his words. "No, this can't be real. I'm just me, I'm not special." My mom's eyes softened with a mixture of sadness and understanding. "I wish that were true, sweetie, but it's not. You were born into this whether you like it or not, and now it's time to embrace it." I shook my head violently. "No, I don't want this, I don't want any of this, you're all lying to me." I felt the tears welling up in my eyes, my chest tightening as the fear and frustration overwhelmed me. "Sweetie," my mom said, her voice calm but firm, "I know this is hard, but you need to understand something. Your power isn't something you can ignore. It's part of who you are, and if you don't learn to control it, you could lose everything." I was shaking now, not just from the cold, but from the sheer weight of the words they were throwing at me. "What do you mean, lose everything? What happens if I don't control it?" The tall man stepped forward once more, his face serious. "You'll be a danger to yourself and to others. Your power isn't something to be afraid of, but if you don't learn how to use it, it will control you. It will tear you apart from the inside." My chest tightened even more at his words, panic surging through me like an electric current. "No, I can't. I don't even know what you're talking about. How can I have power? I'm just a normal person." My father stepped in between me and the strangers, his eyes searching mine. "You're not just anyone, sweetie. You come from a long line of people who share this gift. We've protected you, kept you safe, so you wouldn't fall into the wrong hands." I stared at him, trying to comprehend what he was saying. "The wrong hands? Who would want me? I'm just a girl." He shook his head slowly, his face serious. "There are people out there who want to use your power for their own gain, people who will stop at nothing to control it." The room seemed to close in around me. My mom's voice was the only thing I could hear clearly, though it felt distant. "That's why we had to hide you, sweetie. We had to protect you from the people who would exploit you, people who would stop at nothing to use your gift for their own dark purposes." The man with dark eyes, who had been silent until now, finally spoke again. "We're not the only ones who know what you are. There are others out there, others who are hunting you right now. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. What do you mean hunting me? I whispered, my throat dry. Who's hunting me? The tall man gave me a dark look, his voice steady. The ones who want to control your power, they've been watching you. They've been waiting for the moment when you're ready to unlock it, and that time is now. I felt like I was falling, sinking into the dark unknown with no idea how to climb back out. My thoughts were racing, my heart pounding in my chest. What was happening? Why me? Why now? Sweetie, my mom said gently, the moment you've been waiting for, the moment you're ready for, is finally here. You have to make a choice. A choice, I said, barely able to breathe. What choice? She looked at me with a mixture of love and regret. A choice between embracing your gift or losing it forever. The truth is, you can't run from this. You can't hide anymore. You have to decide what kind of person you want to be and what you want to do with this power you have. I felt tears in my eyes again, but they were different this time. These were tears of realization, of fear. And before I could ask another question, the sound of footsteps outside the door snapped my attention away. They were here. The ones who had been waiting. And they were coming for me. The footsteps outside grew louder, echoing through the house like a warning. My heart pounded in my chest, and I could feel the fear surging through me, the blood rushing in my ears. I turned to my parents and the strangers, my eyes wide with panic. They're here, I whispered, my voice shaking. My father's expression was grim, but there was something else in his eyes, a kind of urgency that made my blood run cold. We have to leave, now. Leave, I gasped, unable to process what he was saying. Where? Who are these people? What's going on? Before he could answer, the door slammed open, the loud crash of wood against the frame echoing in the small hallway. A gust of cold air flooded the room, carrying with it a scent of dampness like rain-soaked earth. And then, through the door, stepped a figure cloaked in black. His face was hidden in shadow, but there was no mistaking the air of authority that seemed to follow him. Behind him were two more figures, both tall and menacing. They moved silently, as if they didn't need to make a sound. They were like predators closing in on their prey. My parents stiffened. My mom's face drained of color, her lips pressed into a thin line. She looked at me, her eyes full of fear and something else, something I couldn't quite place. Run, she whispered urgently, now. But I couldn't move. My legs felt like they were stuck in cement, my body refusing to obey. I stared at the strangers who had entered my home, my mind still reeling from everything I had just learned. The leader of the group, the man in black, stepped forward, his eyes locked on mine. There was something in his gaze, something dark, something predatory. His lips curled into a slight smirk, and I felt a chill run down my spine. You must be the one, he said, his voice smooth and calculated, the one they've been hiding. I couldn't speak, my throat felt tight, the words refusing to come out. The man continued, his voice never faltering. You've been protected long enough, it's time to come with us. I glanced at my father, my heart racing. Who are they? What do they want with me? They're not here for us, my father said, his voice low, almost strained. They're here for you. The man in black's gaze flickered briefly to my father before returning to me. We don't have time for this. You'll come with us now or we'll make you. The threat in his words was clear, and I could feel my stomach twist with fear. I didn't know what to do. My mind was racing. I had just learned that I wasn't like everyone else, that I had a power. But now I was faced with people who seemed to know everything about me, and they were coming for me. What do you want with me? I demanded, my voice trembling but defiant. The man in black didn't answer right away. He took a step closer, his eyes never leaving mine. The others stood behind him, silent and still like statues. Your power is ours to control, he finally said. You were born with it, but you don't know how to use it. We do, and we're going to teach you. Teach me, I repeated, my voice rising in disbelief. You can't control me, I don't even know what this power is. You will, he said, his tone cold. In time you will. I backed away, my heart pounding in my chest. I could feel the fear tightening around me like a vice. This wasn't just some random encounter. These people knew too much and they were dangerous. I could see it in their eyes, the way they moved with precision, with purpose. They'll kill you if you don't come willingly, my father said, his voice strained. Please don't make this harder than it has to be. I turned to my mom, hoping for some reassurance, but her face was pale, her eyes filled with fear. I could see that she had been hiding the truth from me for a long time. She had never prepared me for this. I won't go with them, I said, my voice shaking but firm. I won't let you take me. The man in black's lips curled into a smile, but it wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who was used to getting what they wanted. You don't have a choice, he said, his voice filled with dark promise. Either you come with us or we take you by force. In that moment, something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to let these strangers take me. I wasn't going to let them control me. I turned and ran. I didn't think, I just ran. My feet pounded on the hardwood floors as I sprinted down the hallway, the sound of footsteps behind me echoing in the silence. I didn't know where I was going, I didn't know what to do, but I couldn't stay there. I had to get away, I had to. I stumbled to a stop as I reached the front door. My hand hovered over the doorknob, but something stopped me. I heard their voices behind me getting closer. They were catching up. Get her, the man in black shouted. I swung open the door and dashed outside into the cold night air. The world felt dark, the sky heavy with clouds, as if everything were closing in on me. The wind howled through the trees, and I could barely see anything in front of me. But I couldn't stop, I had to keep moving. I ran down the steps, my heart pounding, my lungs burning. I could hear the voices behind me growing louder, their footsteps quickening. They were gaining on me. Suddenly I heard a voice, a whisper in the wind, and I froze in my tracks. Sweetie, it's not too late. It was my mom's voice. I whipped around, my heart racing, but no one was there. Mom, I called, panic rising in my chest. Where are you? The only answer was the sound of footsteps, and they were getting closer. I had to make a choice. Would I keep running or would I turn back? And that's when I saw something in the distance, something I hadn't noticed before. A figure, a shadow, standing tall against the wind. It was my father. And he wasn't alone. The others were there too. They were waiting for me. And I had nowhere to go. I stood there frozen, staring at the figures in the distance. My mind was a mess, trying to process everything, trying to understand how everything had gone so wrong. I had just run out of the house, hopping to escape, but now there they were, my father, the strangers, and someone else I hadn't seen before. Someone taller, cloaked in shadow, standing like a sentinel. The wind whipped through my hair, making it hard to see clearly. But I knew one thing for sure, I couldn't run anymore. They were everywhere. Sweetie, come back to us, my father's voice called softly. There was a hint of sadness in it, but also something else, something almost pleading. I shook my head, my body trembling. I don't know what's happening anymore. I don't know who you are, who they are. My voice cracked as I spoke, the fear overwhelming me. The man in black, the leader of the strangers, took a step forward, his expression unreadable. Your father is right, it's not too late. You don't have to fight this, you don't have to run. You're a part of something bigger, a purpose that's meant for you. A purpose, I repeated, trying to steady myself. My hands shook as I clenched them into fists. All of this lie, what am I supposed to believe? I don't even know who to trust anymore. You're the key, my father said, stepping forward now, his voice steady but full of regret. You've always been. You're a part of the old bloodline, sweetie, a line that has carried this power for generations. My heart skipped a beat. Power? What are you talking about? The stranger beside my father, the one who hadn't spoken yet, took a step closer. We are what you've inherited. Your father was part of us, and you will be too once you learn how to control it. Suddenly everything felt too heavy. My head was spinning, and the cold air felt like it was wrapping itself around me, tightening, suffocating me. I tried to push it all away, to block out the voices, the faces, the fear, but it was impossible. There was no escape. Is it true? I asked, my voice trembling as I turned to my father. Is everything you said a lie? He didn't answer right away. He took a long breath as if he had been waiting for this moment. No, sweetie, nothing was a lie. I couldn't tell you the truth before, but you need to understand now. The power that you have, the reason they're hunting you, it's because you're the last of your kind, and they want to use you. The others stepped forward, their eyes glowing with something I couldn't place, like hunger, like need. My father's face remained stoic, but his eyes were filled with regret. I don't want to be part of this, I whispered, stepping back. I don't want any of it. The man in black smiled darkly. You don't have a choice, you've already inherited it. The power is part of you, and it's time you learn to control it or it will control you. The ground beneath my feet felt unstable. I wanted to scream, to run, to do anything, but I was paralyzed by fear. I didn't know what kind of power I had, how to control it, or why anyone wanted to use me. But the longer I stood there, the more I realized something deep inside me was stirring, something that wanted to break free, to understand everything. "You can't hide from this forever," the stranger with the cold eyes said. "You need to embrace your destiny. You are the key to everything, to the world that exists behind the world you know." I took a step back, my breath shallow. "No, I don't believe you." "I didn't think you would," he replied, his voice colder now. "But you will, eventually." The wind howled around us, making the world feel more surreal, like I was in a dream I couldn't wake up from. And then, before I knew what was happening, the man in black took a step forward and reached out toward me. A sudden wave of energy surged through the air. It wasn't like anything I'd ever felt before. It was heavy and electric, like static but multiplied 1,000 times. My heart raced as the energy surged through me, filling me with something I couldn't understand, something wild and raw. I gasped, stumbling backward, but my father stepped forward, his hand reaching out to stop me. "You're ready, it's time. You can't fight this, sweetie, it's a part of you." The power inside me swelled again, and I screamed as the energy coursed through me, overwhelming everything. The ground shook beneath my feet and the air crackled with energy. It felt like my body was being torn apart, like the world was splitting at the seams. I closed my eyes, trying to block out the sensations, trying to control it, but it was too much. Suddenly, everything stopped. I opened my eyes to find myself standing in the middle of the street, the world eerily still. The wind was gone, the footsteps were gone, the shadows were gone. My parents, the strangers, everything was gone. I was alone. I looked around, my chest still heaving with breath. Where had they gone? What had happened to the power I'd felt just moments ago? My hands were still trembling and the world around me seemed so quiet, so empty. And then, from the corner of my eye, I saw a figure. Someone was standing at the far end of the street, watching me. I turned quickly, my heart racing. It was him, the man in black, the one who had told me everything. But this time he wasn't with the others. It was just him, standing alone, his face hidden in the shadows. "Where are they?" I demanded, my voice shaking with fear. "Where did they go?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he took a step toward me, his eyes glowing faintly in the dark. "It's over," he said quietly. "Over," I repeated, not understanding. "What do you mean it's over? What happened?" The man in black smiled, a dark, knowing smile. "It's over because you made your choice. You chose to stop running." I stepped back, my pulse racing. "I don't understand. What does that mean?" He tilted his head slightly. "It means you're free now. You've accepted what you are. You've embraced your power." I shook my head. "No, I haven't. I don't even know what I'm supposed to do with it." The man in black stepped closer, his gaze steady. "You'll figure it out. You always do. You're stronger than you realize." The world around me seemed to shift, like the world was resetting itself. I could feel it, this strange new power, not just inside me but in the world itself. It was like the air had changed, like everything was connected by some invisible thread. "Will you be okay?" he asked, his voice almost kind now. I nodded slowly, unsure of what my future would hold. But one thing was certain, whatever happened next, I would no longer be afraid. "I will," I whispered. "I'm ready." And with that, the man in black nodded and vanished into the shadows, leaving me standing alone in the quiet street. I didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in years I felt a sense of peace. The power was mine to control. And I would use it to find my way.